Distant echoes. The soft glow of computer screens illuminated Maya Lin's face as she squinted at the data patterns scrolling before her. The small observatory perched on the outskirts of Tucson wasn't prestigious, but it offered something invaluable: uninterrupted access to the night sky and minimal questions about her unconventional research methods. At 32, Maya had become accustomed to the solitary rhythm of her work. Her cramped office doubled as storage space, with star charts and calculation sheets taped haphazardly to every available surface. A half-empty cup of tea had grown cold beside her keyboard, forgotten hours ago when she'd noticed an anomaly in her stellar readings. "You're still here?" Dr. Ramirez, the observatory director, appeared in her doorway. His salt-and-pepper hair was disheveled, concern etched across his weathered face. "It's nearly midnight, Maya." "Just finishing up," she replied without looking away from her screen. "These gamma-ray patterns aren't matching standard models. I think there's something revolutionary that will upend conventional astrophysics." He finished with a gentle smile. "Same thing you said last month and the month before." Maya finally turned, rubbing her tired eyes. "This time it's different. The radiation signatures suggest gravitational anomalies that could validate my theory about interstellar communication possibilities." Ramirez nodded. "I know, but even brilliant minds need sleep." He stepped into her office, placing an envelope on her desk. "This came for you today. Looks important." The elegant cream envelope bore the distinctive silver insignia of the International Astronomical Alliance. Maya's heart skipped as she carefully opened it, unfolding the letter inside. "They want me to present at the Global Space Innovation Summit," she whispered, scanning the invitation. "But that's impossible. My research isn't published yet, and they've rejected my submissions 3 times. Perhaps someone influential has been paying attention," Ramirez suggested, a mysterious twinkle in his eye. The summit was next week in Geneva, a gathering of the world's foremost minds in space exploration and theoretical physics. Attendance alone would be remarkable. Being invited to present was nearly miraculous. Later that night in her modest apartment, Maya packed while her tabby cat Kepler watched with judgmental eyes. Her closet offered little suitable for an international conference. Mostly jeans, observatory logo t-shirts, and the one blazer she'd worn for job interviews 4 years ago. "What do you think, Kep? Can I pass for a respected scientist?" she asked, holding up the slightly worn blazer. The cat blinked slowly in response. Her phone chimed with a notification, her flight details already arranged by the conference organizers. The luxury of not worrying about costs was unfamiliar and slightly unsettling, as was the nagging question, why had she been invited? The answer came 5 days later, as Maya stood nervously in the opulent lobby of the Geneva International Conference Center, clutching her presentation materials. Attendees in expensive suits mingled around her, their conversations buzzing with technical jargon and industry gossip. "Dr. Lin, welcome to the summit." A coordinator approached, offering a badge. "Your presentation is scheduled for tomorrow morning in the main hall. Mr. Winters specifically requested you be given a prime slot." Maya froze. "Mr. Winters? Elijah Winters?" "Yes, our keynote speaker and primary sponsor." The coordinator smiled. "He mentioned you were former colleagues. He's about to begin the opening address if you'd like to." But Maya had already turned toward the main hall, her pulse thundering. Elijah Winters? The name she'd both avoided and secretly searched for over 7 years. She slipped into the packed auditorium just as he took the stage. The audience applauded enthusiastically as spotlights illuminated him, tall, composed, commanding attention with effortless grace. His dark hair was shorter than she remembered, now styled immaculately, and his once casual demeanor had transformed into polished confidence. The young, passionate researcher she'd known had become a technology mogul, founder of Starway Industries and pioneer of private space exploration. "Thank you all for joining us as we explore tomorrow's frontiers today," Elijah began, his resonant voice bringing an immediate hush to the room. Maya remained standing at the back, unable to move forward or retreat. His presentation outlined Starway's latest innovations, satellite systems, propulsion technologies, and plans for the first commercial lunar base. She recognized elements of theories they'd once developed together in university labs, now evolved into practical applications worth billions. When the lights came up for questions, Maya instinctively stepped deeper into the shadows. But somehow, amid hundreds of faces, Elijah's gaze found hers immediately, as if some invisible thread still connected them across time and space. For a heartbeat, his carefully cultivated poise faltered. Recognition, surprise, and something deeper flashed across his features before he recovered, smoothly answering a question from the audience. Maya slipped out before the session ended, retreating to her hotel room. Tomorrow she would present her research on potential communication patterns hidden within cosmic radiation. The very research Elijah had once dismissed as too theoretical, too risky for his career aspirations. As she rehearsed her presentation, her phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. 7 years, 4 months, and 16 days. Too long. Meet me in the hotel garden after dinner? EW. Maya stared at the screen, memories washing over her like tides. Late nights in the university observatory, passionate debates about quantum theory, stolen kisses between star charts, and finally, the devastating choice that had torn their paths apart. She hadn't expected him to count the days. Celestial collision. The hotel garden was a masterpiece of European elegance. Manicured hedges, stone fountains, and strategically placed lights that mimicked starlight. Maya hesitated at the entrance, smoothing her simple navy dress, the only formal attire she'd packed. Elijah stood with his back to her, his silhouette outlined against the Geneva skyline. He'd changed from his presentation suit to dark trousers and a charcoal sweater that reminded her of their university days. "You came," he said without turning, as if he could sense her presence. "I almost didn't." Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. When he turned, his expression was unreadable. "Your research on interstellar communication patterns, it's brilliant. Exactly what the summit needed. Is that why you arranged my invitation? Professional courtesy?" "Partly." Elijah gestured to a secluded bench. "Mostly I wanted to see if you'd come." They sat with careful distance between them. Up close, Maya noticed the subtle changes 7 years had wrought. Fine lines at the corners of his eyes, a scar along his jaw that hadn't been there before, a certain weariness beneath his confidence. "Starway Industries," she said. "You actually did it. Built your aerospace empire. And you continued our theoretical research alone." His eyes searched hers. "I've read every paper you've published. All 3 of them." The bitterness in her tone surprised even her. "And the 7 that were rejected. I have connections at the journals." Elijah leaned forward. "Maya, I have a proposition. Starway is establishing a new division for theoretical cosmology. We need someone who understands communication possibilities beyond conventional physics." "You need me," she translated, incredulous. "I've always needed you." The words hung between them, weighted with double meaning. Maya laughed without humor. 7 years of silence suggests otherwise. "You disappeared first," he countered softly. "One day we were planning our future. The next you withdrew your thesis, canceled your fellowship, and vanished. My calls, emails, all unanswered." The memory stung sharper than she expected. "I had my reasons, which you never shared." Elijah's professional composure slipped, revealing a glimpse of old wounds. "I'm offering you full research funding, state-of-the-art equipment, and a team. Complete academic freedom, under your company's banner, your ownership. Partnership," he corrected. "Your name on every publication, patent, and discovery." "Why now?" Maya demanded. "After all this time?" "Because your latest theory about gamma-ray communication matrices could change everything, and because I'm tired of wondering what might have been." He handed her a sleek folder containing the formal offer. "Just visit the facility tomorrow after your presentation. That's all I ask." The next morning, Maya delivered her presentation to the scientific community with quiet intensity. She explained how certain radiation patterns from distant galaxies showed non-random sequencing that could potentially represent deliberate transmission, a cosmic language waiting to be deciphered. When she finished, the room erupted in a mixture of skepticism and excitement, exactly the academic controversy she'd expected. What she hadn't expected was Elijah standing at the conclusion, publicly endorsing her theory and announcing Starway's commitment to advancing her research. The declaration effectively silenced her critics and guaranteed the scientific world would pay attention. It felt like validation and manipulation simultaneously. The Starway research facility outside Geneva was unlike anything Maya had imagined. a sprawling complex of laboratories, observation decks, and computational centers nestled against the mountains. Your department, Elijah said, leading her into a circular room dominated by holographic star maps and advanced sensor arrays. Maya's fingers trailed over equipment she'd only read about in journals. This would take decades to access through traditional academic channels. It's yours. No strings attached, he hesitated. Well, one condition. You work directly with me on the integration of your communication theory with our deep space network. Working together again, the prospect was both exhilarating and terrifying. Every logical argument pointed toward accepting, yet something held her back. The memory of their last night together 7 years ago, when dreams and ambitions had collided catastrophically. I need time to consider, she said finally. Of course. His professional mask returned. The offer remains open. 2 days later, Maya stood in her Tucson apartment staring at her meager possessions. Kepler watched from his perch as she signed the Starway contract, a decision that felt both inevitable and life-changing. 3 weeks later, she was installed in a company apartment in Geneva, spending her days in the most advanced astronomical laboratory on Earth. Her theories were being tested, expanded, challenged by a team of brilliant minds, and every evening brought strategy sessions with Elijah. They maintained careful professional boundaries during these meetings, discussing quantum entanglement and radiation matrices with clinical precision. But sometimes, late at night when fatigue lowered their guards, glimpses of their former connection surfaced. A shared laugh over an obscure scientific joke, the synchronicity of their thought processes, the way they still finished each other's sentences when theorizing. We're close to something, Elijah said one night, as they reviewed anomalous data patterns from a distant pulsar. His shoulder brushed hers as they leaned over the same display, sending a jolt of awareness through her that had nothing to do with science. The radiation sequence repeats with variations that can't be explained by natural phenomena, Maya agreed, fighting to maintain her focus. Like a conversation, he murmured. Their eyes met, and for a moment the years between them vanished. Maya stepped back abruptly. I should get some rest. Big presentation to the board tomorrow. Maya. His voice stopped her at the door. We can't keep pretending there's nothing else between us but work. There isn't, she lied, not turning around. There's just unfinished research. And unfinished conversations, he added quietly. Sooner or later, we'll have to finish both. She left without responding, knowing he was right and terrified of what truths might emerge when they finally confronted their shared past, and the feelings that had survived 7 years of separation, orbital descent. 3 months into her position at Starway, Maya's research team achieved their first major breakthrough. The pattern recognition algorithm she'd developed had identified consistent mathematical sequences in radiation bursts from a cluster of stars 20 light-years away, sequences too orderly to be random, too complex to be explained by known cosmic phenomena. The discovery sent ripples of excitement through the scientific community. Overnight, Maya's controversial theories gained credibility, and Starway's stock price soared with the possibility of revolutionary communication technology. That evening, the company hosted a celebration. The observation deck had been transformed with elegant decorations, champagne flowed freely, and the Geneva elite mingled with scientists and investors. Maya stood apart, uncomfortable in the borrowed designer dress, watching Elijah navigate the crowd with practiced charm. Not enjoying your moment of triumph? He asked, suddenly beside her. It feels premature, she admitted. We've only proven the patterns exist, not what they mean. Always the perfectionist. His smile held affection. Some of us believe in celebrating milestones along the journey. Some of us couldn't afford to, she said quietly. Something shifted in his expression. Walk with me. He led her to a private section of the observation deck away from the party. Below them, the lights of Geneva sparkled like earthbound stars. When you left Berkeley, Elijah began carefully. You never explained why. Maya's grip tightened on her champagne flute. Does it matter now? It's mattered every day for 7 years. The controlled composure he maintained in the boardroom had vanished, replaced by raw honesty. One moment we were planning to revolutionize astrophysics together. The next you were gone, leaving me with half-finished research and no explanation. The weight of unspoken truths pressed against her chest. Perhaps it was the success of their project or the late hour, or simply exhaustion from maintaining emotional distance. But Maya finally surrendered to the inevitable. My father was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's, she said, her voice barely audible. Stage 3 by the time I found out. He'd been hiding his symptoms for months. Elijah's shocked expression confirmed he'd had no idea. He had no one else, she continued, the words rushing out after years of containment. My mother was gone, no siblings. The prestigious Berkeley Fellowship that was supposed to launch my career barely covered my own expenses, let alone specialized care. So I withdrew, moved back to Arizona, and took whatever teaching positions I could find that allowed me to be his caretaker. You could have told me, he said softly. We could have figured something out together. What would you have done, Elijah? Her laugh held no humor. You were just starting your company. You'd mortgaged your future on your ambitions. You needed a research partner who could work around the clock, not one rushing home to make sure her father hadn't wandered into traffic. I would have helped, he insisted. That's exactly what I couldn't bear. Maya turned to him, years of suppressed emotions finally surfacing. Your pity, becoming your obligation, watching your resentment grow as your dreams got tangled in my family tragedy. You decided my response without giving me the chance to have one, he said, hurt evident in his voice. I watched my father deteriorate for 4 years, she continued. By the end, he didn't recognize me. After he died, I was left with medical debt and a career in tatters. The observatory position was the best I could salvage. Silence stretched between them, filled with might-have-beens. Finally, Elijah spoke. I have my own confession. He guided her to a bench overlooking the mountains. The gravitational propulsion system that made Starway successful. It was built on our joint research. Your equations were the foundation, Maya stilled. You used our work? I credited you in all the patents and academic papers, he said quickly. But when the technology started generating serious revenue, I couldn't find you. The royalties your share have been accumulating in a trust all these years. She stood abruptly. So this job offer, this partnership, was it guilt? Paying a debt? No. Elijah rose to face her. It was me finally finding the courage to face you, to admit that my success was built partly on your brilliance, and yes, to make things right, by keeping me close under your corporate umbrella. The betrayal stung, even as another part of her acknowledged the complexity of their situation. By bringing you back into the work that should have been ours together from the beginning, he corrected. His hand reached for hers, hesitating before making contact. Maya, not a day has passed when I haven't thought about you, wondered where you were, what you were doing. The gentle touch of his fingers against hers broke something loose inside her. 7 years of grief, struggle, and loneliness collided with the undeniable connection that still hummed between them. I kept every theoretical journal we wrote together, she admitted. Even during the worst times with my father, I'd read them at night, imagining conversations with you about the cosmos. His other hand lifted to her face, thumb gently tracing her cheekbone. I've missed your mind, your perspective, the way you see patterns no one else notices. Just my mind. The question escaped before she could stop it. Instead of answering, Elijah leaned forward slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But Maya remained still, heart thundering as his lips finally met hers. The kiss was tentative at first, a question rather than a demand. When she responded, years of separation seemed to dissolve. His arms encircled her waist as she pressed closer, fingers threading through his hair, rediscovering familiar terrain made new by time and experience. When they finally parted, breathless and dazed, the world had shifted once again. We should get back to the party, Maya whispered against his lips, though neither made any move to leave. They won't miss us. His forehead rested against hers. Maya, I know we can't simply pick up where we left off. Too much has happened, but I don't want to lose you again. One step at a time, she agreed, suddenly fearful of the intensity between them. We're colleagues first. The project has to remain the priority. He nodded, reluctantly releasing her. Colleagues, he agreed, though his eyes promised more. As they rejoined the celebration, Maya felt equal measures of exhilaration and terror. Scientific breakthroughs were quantifiable, predictable in their unpredictability. But the reopening of her heart to Elijah Winters followed no mathematical formula she could track or control, and the potential for another devastating crash was all too real. Gravity's pull. Maya's team expanded their research, identifying 17 distinct pattern sequences that appeared to represent a form of mathematical communication. Global scientific journals that had once rejected her work now clamored for exclusive rights to publish her findings. The 6 months since joining Starway had transformed her from academic outsider to pioneering researcher at the forefront of potentially humanity-changing discoveries. Her relationship with Elijah evolved cautiously alongside their professional collaboration. Careful boundaries established after their kiss gradually softened. Late-night research sessions ended with shared meals in his private office. Theoretical disagreements sparked passionate debates that sometimes resolved in equally passionate embraces. They kept their personal relationship private, a protective bubble away from corporate politics and scientific scrutiny. In those intimate moments, Maya rediscovered the Elijah she'd fallen for years ago. The brilliant mind behind the polished executive, the man who looked at the stars with the same wonder she did. "What do you think they're saying?" Elijah asked one evening as they reviewed the latest transmission patterns in his apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a spectacular view of Lake Geneva, but their attention remained fixed on holographic star charts hovering above the coffee table. "Assuming they're saying anything at all," Maya replied, leaning against his shoulder. "These could be automated beacons, navigation markers, or something entirely beyond our comprehension." Always the skeptic. He pressed a kiss to her temple. "After all we've discovered, you still doubt?" "I consider alternatives," she corrected, smiling. "That's good science. Well, good science has made you famous." He gestured to the digital magazine displayed on the table, featuring Maya on its cover as Visionary of the Year. "Us," she amended. "Our team." Elijah's arm tightened around her. "I'm proud of you. Not because you proved everyone wrong, but because you never stopped believing in your theories, even when it would have been easier to conform to conventional thinking." Something in his tone made her look up. "What's wrong?" He hesitated. "The board meeting tomorrow." "There's something you should know." Maya sat straighter. "What about it?" "North Star Dynamics has made an acquisition offer." Elijah's expression turned serious. "Their CEO will be attending. Victor Zhao." Maya's stomach tightened. North Star was Starway's largest competitor, known for aggressive business tactics and prioritizing military applications over scientific advancement. They're particularly interested in the communication technology applications. Elijah continued carefully. "The potential for instantaneous communication across vast distances would revolutionize military operations." Maya finished, suddenly cold. "That's not what this research is meant for. The board is divided. Some members see North Star's resources as an opportunity to accelerate development. And you?" she challenged. "Where do you stand?" "I built Starway to explore space, not weaponize it." His response was immediate. "But as CEO, I have to present all options." Maya pulled away slightly. "Even options that corrupt everything we're working toward?" "I'm fighting this, Maya," he assured her. "Trust me." Those two words, "trust me," echoed uncomfortably. She had trusted him once before with her heart and her research. The results had been complicated at best. The board meeting the next day was tense from the outset. Maya sat beside Elijah at the massive conference table, acutely aware of Victor Zhao's calculating gaze from across the room. The North Star CEO was younger than she expected, with sharp features and the practiced charm of someone accustomed to getting his way. "Dr. Lin's breakthrough is remarkable," Zhao said during his presentation, "but North Star can provide resources to develop practical applications far beyond Starway's capabilities. Applications primarily benefiting military contracts," Maya interjected. Zhao smiled thinly. "Among many civilian uses, certainly. The question is whether this discovery belongs in a lab or changing the world." "Interesting choice of words," Maya replied coolly, "particularly the word belongs." The tension escalated when Zhao unveiled his proposal, a complete acquisition of Starway's Communication Research Division, with generous compensation for shareholders and continued research positions for key scientists. "And intellectual property rights?" Maya demanded. "Would transfer to North Star naturally," Zhao answered smoothly, "with appropriate credit to the original researchers." Maya's gaze snapped to Elijah, who remained frustratingly unreadable. After Zhao's departure, the board erupted in debate. Several members openly favored the offer, citing financial benefits and expanded research budgets. Others expressed concerns about losing control of groundbreaking technology. Throughout the heated discussion, Elijah remained measured, presenting arguments from both perspectives with diplomatic neutrality that increasingly infuriated Maya. When had the passionate scientist become this corporate politician? "You're actually considering this," she accused when they were finally alone in his office. "I'm doing my job," he countered, loosening his tie with apparent exhaustion. "Which includes hearing all perspectives before making decisions." Some decisions shouldn't require debate. This research could establish communication with other intelligent life. It could transform humanity's understanding of our place in the universe. And North Star wants to use it for tactical advantages in conflicts that won't matter in cosmic timescales. Elijah ran a hand through his hair. "Maya, this isn't black and white. North Star's resources could accelerate development by years. At what cost?" Her voice rose. "Is this history repeating itself? You choosing professional advancement over scientific integrity?" His expression hardened. "That's unfair, is it? 7 years ago, you chose the practical applications of our research over the theoretical exploration we'd planned together. Because somebody had to be practical." The rare display of temper startled them both. "You've always lived in theoretical possibilities, Maya. I've had to operate in reality, managing investors, budgets, regulations." "Reality," she echoed. "Like the reality that you built your empire using our joint research while I was changing my father's diapers and watching him forget my name." The cruel words hung between them like a physical barrier. Elijah's face drained of color. "I never meant to hurt you," he said finally, voice low. "But you did," Maya replied, suddenly exhausted. "And now you're positioned to do it again. Not just to me, but to everyone who believes this research could connect humanity to something greater than ourselves." She gathered her things, heading for the door. "The board votes next week. You have until then to decide who you really are. Elijah, the visionary scientist I loved, or the businessman who sees the stars as assets to be leveraged." "Maya," he began, but she was already gone, her footsteps echoing down the corridor. That night in her apartment, Maya stared at the ceiling, torn between scientific ambition and personal integrity. Zhao had already approached her privately, offering a separate position at North Star if the acquisition failed, complete research freedom and double her current salary. The offer represented everything she'd once dreamed of professionally. Yet accepting would mean abandoning the team she'd built, the work they'd accomplished together, and Elijah despite their current conflict. As dawn broke over the mountains, Maya made her decision. She would protect the research at all costs, even if it meant losing Elijah for the second time. Some principles couldn't be compromised, not even for love. Cosmic alignment. The week before the board vote passed in strained silence, Maya threw herself into research, working long hours with her team while avoiding direct interaction with Elijah. He respected her space, communicating through formal emails and staff meetings where professional courtesy masked the fracture between them. Rumors of the potential acquisition spread through the company. Colleagues approached Maya with questions she couldn't answer, concerns she secretly shared. The uncertainty hung over the research facility like a storm cloud, dampening the excitement of recent discoveries. The morning of the vote, Maya arrived early to find her team gathered anxiously in the lab. She offered reassurances she didn't fully believe, then retreated to her office to prepare her final appeal to the board. A presentation, emphasizing the ethical implications and long-term scientific value of maintaining independent research. A knock interrupted her preparations. Expecting a team member, she called for them to enter without looking up. "You forgot this at my place," Elijah said quietly. Maya looked up to see him holding her favorite star chart stylus, a small, personal item she hadn't even realized was missing. The intimacy of the moment, him returning something from their private time together, struck her unexpectedly. "Thank you," she said stiffly, accepting it without meeting his eyes. "I've missed you," he said simply. The admission pierced her practiced indifference. "We've been in the same building every day. You know what I mean." He remained by the door, maintaining the distance she'd established. Maya, before you present to the board, there's something you should know. She finally looked at him directly, bracing for disappointment. I'm voting against the acquisition, he said, and I've spent the week convincing key shareholders to do the same. Hope fluttered cautiously. Why? Because you were right. His voice carried conviction she hadn't heard since their university days. This research isn't about market share or military applications. It's about expanding human knowledge, about reaching for something beyond ourselves. Relief flooded through her, but caution held her back. The board could still overrule you. They won't. His confidence was absolute. But that's not all. Elijah crossed the room, placing a document on her desk. This transfers 26% of Starway's ownership to you, backdated to account for your contribution to the founding technology. Maya stared at the paper in shock. This is what should have happened years ago, he finished. Your name belongs on the company as much as mine. I've also established an independent research foundation with your name as scientific director. Even if something happens to Starway in the future, your work continues, protected from commercial interference. Why now? She whispered, overwhelmed. Because I've spent 7 years building something impressive but incomplete. His eyes held hers steadily. A company without a soul, technology without purpose, success without the one person who made it meaningful. Maya stood slowly, the wall of hurt and protection she'd built beginning to crumble. This doesn't fix everything between us. I know. His voice softened. But I hope it's a beginning. Not of what we had before. We're different people now. But something new, something better, because we've both learned what matters. The board meeting that afternoon was anticlimactic. Elijah opened by announcing Starway's official rejection of North Star's offer, to surprised murmurs from members who'd expected debate. He then introduced the new research foundation structure, emphasizing the company's renewed commitment to scientific exploration over short-term profit. When Maya presented her team's latest findings, evidence suggesting the cosmic signals contained mathematical concepts beyond current human understanding, the board's remaining resistance faded before the magnitude of what they were pursuing. Afterward, colleagues celebrated in the main laboratory. The cloud of uncertainty finally lifted. Maya slipped away to the observation deck, needing a moment alone beneath the early evening stars. May I join you? Elijah asked, appearing in the doorway. She nodded, and he came to stand beside her at the railing. Above them, the first stars were becoming visible against the darkening sky. What happens now? She asked softly. Professionally, we continue the research, expand the team, pursue the signals wherever they lead us. And personally, she dared to ask. Elijah turned to face her fully. That depends on you. On whether you can forgive me for the past. On whether you're willing to risk your heart again. I never stopped loving you, Maya admitted, the truth she'd carried for 7 years finally spoken aloud. Even when I hated you for succeeding without me, even when I convinced myself we were better apart. I measured everyone against the memory of you, and no one ever compared. He reached for her hands, holding them between his own. When you left, I told myself I was building Starway for me, for my ambitions. But everything I created, the technologies, the company, even my success, was really an elaborate message to you. Look what we could do together. Look what's possible. A cosmic signal, Maya said with the beginning of a smile. Exactly. He moved closer. Maya Lin, I've loved you across time and space and missed opportunities. I've loved you through silence and separation. I've loved you in the equations that built this company, and in the empty space beside me where you should have been. I don't want to lose another day. She reached up to touch his face, tracing the contours that had both changed and remained fundamentally the same. We can't go back to who we were. I don't want to, he said honestly. I want who we are now, stronger, wiser, with scars that remind us what matters. I want to build something new with you. Not just technology or research, but a life. The last walls around her heart dissolved. Maya rose on tiptoe, bringing her lips to his in a kiss that spoke of forgiveness, new beginnings, and possibilities as vast as the universe they studied. The last walls around her heart dissolved. Maya rose on tiptoe, bringing her lips to his in a kiss that spoke of forgiveness, new beginnings, and possibilities as vast as the universe they studied. When they finally parted, Elijah kept her close in his arms. What do you think those signals are really saying? He asked, nodding toward the stars now fully visible above them. Maya smiled, resting her head against his chest. Maybe they're saying what we've been trying to tell each other all along, which is that across all the impossible distances, despite all the cosmic forces pulling us apart, some connections are meant to endure. She looked up at him, years of longing finally fulfilled. That love, like light, finds a way to reach across the darkness between stars. Above them, the universe continued its ancient broadcasts, patterns, and pulses that had traveled 20 light years to reach Earth. Messages from distant senders who might never know their signals had not only been received but had, in their own way, helped reunite two hearts that belonged together. In the vast cosmic algorithm, Maya and Elijah had found their alignment at last.